All right. So let us go to 2 Samuel 17. I don't think we'll get through the book tonight, but we'll get through a couple more chapters. And then we'll be off next Monday. Like I said, I'm traveling. And then in 2 weeks, we'll probably start wrapping this up. So start thinking about, and I thought about we've done different books. We can also do topics too. If there's something that you guys want to look at topically, these are more, subject matter where you look at a book and you go line by line. And I love that because I think at times there are so many things that we don't get a chance to necessarily just read or study on our own. So it's great to go and do that. But we can also look at topics if there are topics that people want to look at. That's doable as well. Um, so
I
think
would love to look at the practice heifer
the
because I've
practice.
the practice heifer where they actually donate or sacrifice one
Oh,
of the red.
the red heifer for the temple.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
we might be able to take a look at something like that. Sure, that might, and maybe some stuff related to the temple that could be interesting. Um, we know they have them in Israel right now. There are at least several red heifers they got from Texas. I think one of them developed non-red hair, so it was disqualified. It has to be a perfectly red heifer. So, uh,
I thought though that they said they were going to do a practice run,
oh
but they
yeah,
actually took one of the pure red heifers and sacrificed it so that
yeah.
Jesus could come back.
They basically need the ashes to cleanse the temple, which doesn't exist right now. And well, yeah, right. The physical temple doesn't exist right now, and also to cleanse the garments and the priests and that they use the ashes from a red heifer. So, all right, let's go to 2 Samuel 17. We're going to pick up. So when we left off, David had been driven from the throne by his son Absalom, and this was basically a direct correlation to the sin of him taking Bathsheba and then having Uriah murdered by unbelievers. God had said to him that the sword will never leave your house and that your own, that I'll arise evil out of your own home, which is this Absalom coming up, trying to make us, to take over the throne and to drive David away. Literally, so we start off in 1 Samuel with David being chased by Saul. We end up in 2 Samuel with David being chased by Absalom. And we see how David behaves. And David behaves himself uh, in many ways godly. He makes some mistakes, but in many ways godly by not, trying to get revenge or that kind of stuff. But in chapter 17, verse 1, it says, Moreover, Ahithophel said to Absalom, Let me now choose out 12,000 men, and I will arise and pursue after David this night. Now, Ahithophel, look at chapter 15, verse 31. We see who this Ahithophel is in verse 31. Actually, why don't we start in verse 2? Let me look at verse. Yeah, no, 31's fine. So 15:31. And one told David, saying, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. And David said, O Lord, I pray thee, turn the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness. So Ahithophel was one of the king's counselors. He took up with Absalom. He took sides against David. And here we read, so David has fled. The last place we saw him, he was on the Mount of Olives. So he's not far from Jerusalem, from he's just outside of Jerusalem, basically on the Mount of Olives, but he's basically not in the palace. He's not there. Absalom came in. Ahithophel was the one who said in the end of verse 6, chapter 16, verse 21, Ahithophel said unto Absalom, Go in unto thy father's concubines, which he hath left to keep the house, and that all Israel shall hear that thou art a whore of thy father, and shall the hands of all that are with thee be strong. So they basically did this in fact, it says, verse 22, so they spread Absalom a tent upon the top of the house, and Absalom went in unto his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. That was part of that prophecy in 2 Samuel 12, 11, and 12, where God said, You did this in secret. You took Bathsheba in secret. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take your wives, or in this case, concubines, and give them to your neighbor, in this case, his son, and I'll do it in front of all Israel. So this was really consequences. Now, David was forgiven. Nathan said, you're not going to die because David did come clean and he did repent, unlike Saul, and God forgave him, but there were still consequences to the decisions and to the actions he took. So here we have Ahithophel, who's a counselor, taking up with Absalom, saying, "Hey, give me 12,000 men, and I'll go after David this night. We're gonna, we'll make short work of him." He probably would catch him if he went right that night because he hadn't gone far. Verse 2, and I will come upon him while he is weary and weak handed, and will make him afraid, and all the people that are with him shall flee, and I will smite the king only. Hey, this will be a pretty bloodless clue. We're just going to kill the king. When I come upon him in full strength with 12,000 men, everybody's going to run. I'll just kill the king, and that'll be it. Verse 3, and I will bring back all the people unto thee. The man whom thou seeketh is as if all returned, and so all the people shall be in peace. It's not going to be a long, protracted war. We'll just do this one thing. We'll kill the king, then you'll be king, and your kingdom will be established. Verse 4. And the saying pleased Absalom well, and all the elders of Israel, the guys that are with him. And then said Absalom, call now Hushi the Archite also, and let us hear likewise what he saith. Now this was the guy that David said, "Hey, go back to Jerusalem, and you can stand against the counsel of Ahithophel. I want you to go and give counsel, but bad counsel to Absalom." And so this is the guy. He said he came back. He'll say, "I'll serve you just like I served your father." Verse 6. And when Hushi was come to Absalom, Absalom spake unto him, saying, Ahithophel had spoken after this manner. Shall we do after his sayings? If not, speak thou. So, hey, this is what Ahithophel said. I should give him 12,000 men. He's going to pursue right now. He'll come upon him. He'll kill just the king. It'll be pretty bloodless, and then all Israel will be mine. So, verse 7, Ahithophel said unto Absalom, the counsel that Ahithophel hath given is not good at this time. For saith Hushi, thou knowest thy father and his men, that they be mighty men, and they be chafed in their minds as a bear robbed of her whelps in the field. Chafed is like fierce. You think about a mother. If you got between a mother bear and her cubs, that's not a good place to be. That is the fiercest that bear is ever going to be, is when it thinks its cubs are in danger. He goes, that's how David's men are right now. They are fully fierce and dangerous and enraged. And thy father is a man of war and will not lodge with the people. He's not going to go in among the people. He's going to, he knows how to live in the wilderness. He's done it before. Verse 9, behold, he is now in some pit or in some other place, and it will come to pass when some of them be overthrown at first, that whosoever heareth it will say, there is a slaughter among the people that follow Absalom. He goes, you don't want to get bad press. Right now, the kingdom is in flux. The people aren't sure who's king. And if Absalom loses this battle, he may not be king for very long. So Hushi is playing on this fear. Yeah. In sales, there's a term called FUD. It's called fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You want to spread a little bit of that around. So Hushi is spreading fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the mind of Absalom. Going, look, if you go out there right now, they're pissed, they're ready, they're mighty men of war, and if you lose this battle, you could lose the kingdom. So he puts that fear in Absalom's mind. Verse 10. And he also that is valiant, whose heart is as a heart of a lion, shall utterly melt, for all Israel knoweth that thy father is a mighty man, and that they be with him are valiant men. Remember, he had his 37 valiant men, his faithful men, his mighty men that were with him. Plus he had, the 600 men that were with him from early on, these faithful, not just faithful servants, but faithful warriors, men. These of the 37, these were the men we'll read about when David said, oh, I wish I could get a drink from the well at Bethlehem. And 3 of these men fought their way through the Philistines, killed a bunch of them, drew water from the well, and fought their way back and brought it to David. And David went, oh my God, I got to watch what I say. I can't drink this. This is your blood. And he poured it out as a drink offering unto God. So he had to think, oh, I got to be careful what I say. These guys, if I said, cut off your arm for me, some of these guys are going to cut off their arm. So these were great, powerful fighting men. Where do we leave off here?
11.
Yeah, 11. Therefore, I counsel that all Israel be generally gathered unto thee, from Dan even to Beersheba, as the sands is by the sea for multitude, and thou go to battle in thine own person. You lead the battle, but bring all Israel with you. So this is going to buy David time. And that's what Hushi's trying to do. Plus, he's trying to counter the advice, really the good advice that Ahithophel's given Absalom. He wants to counter that so that he doesn't take that advice. Verse 12. So shall we come unto him in some place where he shall be found, and we will light upon him as the dew falleth on the ground, and of him and of all the men that are with him there shall not be left so much as one. We'll wipe them all out completely, all the guys who are standing with him. Moreover, if he be gotten into a city, then shall all Israel bring ropes into the city, and we will draw it into the river. We'll pull the walls down until there'll be not one small stone found there. And Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the counsel of Hushi the Archite is better than the counsel of Ahithophel, for the Lord hath appointed to defeat the good counsel of Ahithophel, to intent that the Lord might bring evil upon Absalom. That's what we read in well, if you look at 1534, I think we read this, but we can look at it again. Chapter 15, verse 34, David says, but if thou return to the city and say unto Absalom, I will be thy servant, O king, as I have been thy father's servant hitherto, so will I now be also thy servant, then mayest thou for me defeat the counsel of Ahithophel. So God sent Hushi back into Jerusalem to be what they used to call a fifth columnist. You'll be a spy, and you'll work with the two priests who are there. I sent them back in as well. I'm not taking the ark with me, and they can send me word when you give this counsel. So Hushi, so then we see that happening in verse 15. Then said Hushi unto Zadok and unto Abiathar the priest, thus did Ahithophel counsel Absalom and the elders of Israel, and thus have I counseled. Now therefore send quickly and tell David, saying, lodge not this night in the plains of the wilderness, but speedily pass over, lest the king be swallowed up and all the people that are with him. Hey, if you don't get out of here and get far away, you are under threat of being overtaken and overwhelmed. Verse 17. Now Jonathan and Ahimaaz stayed by Enrogel for the night, not to be seen unto the city. These are the kids of the priests. They're going to go and tell David what Hushi had done, and told the priest. The priest told their kids that their sons are going out to give word to David, but they can't go directly there because they're afraid they're going to get caught. So it says Jonathan and Ahimaaz stayed in Enrogel for they might not be seen to come into the city, and a wench went and told them that they had told the king David. Nevertheless, a lad saw them and told Absalom, but they went both of them away quickly and came to a man's home in Bahurim and had a well in his court, whether they went down. So they're hiding in this well. Verse 19, and the woman took and spread a covering over the well's mouth and spread a ground corn thereon, and the thing was not known. So she hides the well, covers it over like it's like she's going through the corn. She's cleaning the corn. So it looks like it's just on the ground. They can't tell there's a well there. Verse 20, and when Absalom's servants came to the woman at the house and said, where is Ahimaaz and Jonathan? And the woman said unto them, they be gone over the brook of water. And when they had sought and could not find them, they returned to Jerusalem. So she hid them. They went after them, couldn't find them. And it came to pass after they were departed that they came up out of the well and went and told King David and said unto David, arise and pass quickly over the water, for thus hath Ahithophel counseled against you. And David rose and all the people that were with him, and they passed over the Jordan by morning light. There lacked not one of them that was not gone over the Jordan. So the entire company made it safely over the Jordan. Verse 23, and when Ahithophel saw that his counsel was not followed, he saddled his ass and arose and got him home to his house and to his city, and put his household in order, and hanged himself, and died and was buried in the sepulchre of his father. So God so destroyed the counsel of Ahithophel that he basically lost face before the king because he was thinking, well, he didn't take my advice. He took this other guy's advice. Well, he must not think much of me. And he was ashamed. And so, the devil can use that sometimes to get people to commit suicide. And here, this guy goes back, and because, his pride was hurt, he hangs himself because he was embarrassed that, oh, they didn't take my advice. They took Hushi's advice. But God set it up so that Hushi would overcome the counsel of Ahithophel. Verse 24, and David came to Manim, and Absalom passed over Jordan, he and all the men of Israel with him, and Absalom made Amasa captain of the host instead of Joab, which Amasa was a man's son whose name was Ithra, an Israelite that went in to Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister to Zeruiah, Joab's mother. So this would have been one of David's nephews, basically, a relative of Absalom. He makes him captain of the host. And Israel and Absalom pitched in the land of Gilead. And it came to pass when David was come to Mahanaim and to Shohai, the son of Nasham, and Rabab, the children of Ammon, and Machir, the son of Amiel, and Lodabar, and Barzillai, the Gilead of Rogam. Wow, that was tough. They brought beds and basins. Basins is like bowls, and earthen vessels, and wheat and barley and flour and parched corn and beans and lentils and parched pulse. So they're bringing food and drink out to David and his men, and honey and butter and sheep and cheese and kine for David and for the people that were with him to eat. For they said, the people is hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness. So God is still, even though this is a prophecy that God said was going to come to pass, God is still with David. God is still working in David's behalf. And so there are people coming out and saying, hey, he's the true king of Israel. We're going to take care of him. We're going to help him. Chapter 18, verse 1. And David numbered the people that were with him and set captains of thousands and captains of hundreds over them. So he's getting his army in order, making sure he's got his men to command the thousands and men to command the hundreds. And David sent forth a third part of the people under the hand of Joab. Joab was the captain of the host, right? And a third part of the hand of Abishai. Abishai was Joab's brother. Joab and Abishai had killed Abner. If you remember, when Abner was the captain of the host for Saul, David didn't want him killed, but Joab sometimes acts a little bit rash. We'll see that happens again. But Joab and Abishai kill Abner, and he is David's captain of the host. Abishai is his brother, the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother. And a third part under the hand of Ittai, the Gittite. And the king said unto the people, I will surely go forth with you myself also. Hittai is one of David's 37 mighty men. He's listed in that I think it's in 1 Samuel 23. Look at 1 Samuel 23 for a minute. I'm sorry, 2 Samuel 23.
Chapter 23?
Chapter 23, yeah. 2 Samuel 23. If we start in verse 8, it says, these be the names of the mighty men which David had. And it goes through a list of 37 names. If you get down to verse 39, remember we read Uriah the Hittite, 30 and 7 in all. If you look up one verse, Ira and Ithrite, Gareb and Ithrite, this is the guy that's 38, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, 29. We're further up. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. That's the wrong guy. So Uriah is the last one listed in verse 29. It says, Helab, the son of Banak, and Nephotite, Ittai, the son of Rabbi. That's our guy, Ittai, out of Gibeah of the children of Benjamin. So he's one of David's 37 mighty men. And these are people that God calls David's mighty men. Nobody applied for the job or go, geez, I'd like to get that name tag that says mighty man of David. God singles these guys out and saying, these are the guys. Uriah was one of them. This guy, Ittai, was another. So Joab's taking a third. his brother Abishai's taken a third, and Ittai, the Gittite, one of David's mighty men, has a third. So these are the guys over a third each of this host that David has. And the king said unto the people, I will surely go forth with you myself. So chapter 18, verse 3. But the people answered, Thou shalt not go forth, for if we flee away, they will not care for us, neither if half of us die will they care of us? But now thou art worth 10,000 of us. Therefore now it is better that thou succor us out of the city. Hey, you can do the best thing you can do is stay in the city and let us fight this battle. Because if you die, it doesn't matter if we live. But if we die and you live, that's okay. These guys were like, hey, the king, when you take the king, the game of chess is over, right? And that's what they're saying. If you die, it's all over. There's no coming back from that. But if we lose half our men and we win and you live, great. That's okay. That's a reasonable. So they say you can't come and fight with us. You're too important to come out to battle. And so the people convinced him not to do this.
So
Verse
they're
4.
still in hiding?
No, they're at a city. So he's going into the city. They're going to go out and fight. So they're getting ready for this battle to take place because they know that Absalom's coming. So, verse 4, chapter 18, the king said unto them, What seemeth you best, I will do. So look at the humility there. The king could have said, Nah, you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to go fight. But he listened to them. They were like, No, we can't. You're too important to this to be in this battle. You have to stay in the back, which is not David's typical way. David was used to fighting. And the king said, verse 4, unto them, What seemeth you best, I will do. And the king stood by the gate side, and all the people came out by hundreds and by thousands. So he's already put them in order. He's got their three captains over the three sections, and they're moving forward, getting ready to fight. Verse 6. So the people went out into the field against Israel, and the battle was in the wood of Ephraim. So we're going to see that this place where they picked will work for them. It's going to be something beneficial to David and his men as opposed to Israel. Verse 7. Wherefore the people of Israel were slain before the servants of David that were there, a great slaughter that day of 20,000 men. So this is a civil war. David's servants and Israel. Israel was with Absalom, David and his men. These were the guys that were faithful to him, his 37 mighty men, the 600 that were with him. They're ready to fight. They go out and fight, and they kill 20,000 men of Israel. Verse 8, For the battle was there, scattered over the face of all the country, and the wood devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. That's quite a statement. The terrain was very dangerous, apparently. And where they were fighting worked against Israel and worked for David. And I'm sure God gave him wisdom. There were battles that you read about. I always think of the Battle of Gettysburg that could have went very badly. We might be in two countries right now had that battle gone differently. But because the North got to the hillsides first and secured that hill, those hills where the battle was fought, it really changed the battle because they fought with, some of the Southern generals like Longstreet wanted them to go around and make them come down off the hill and fight them in an open field. And Lee wouldn't have it. He was going to attack them. He's never lost a battle. So he thought, I'll just fight these guys where they are and I'll beat them there. And it broke him. It broke his army and it cost the South the war, basically began to fail after they lost Gettysburg. This particular place where they fought, the woods were dangerous. I don't know. In some place they'll talk about a pit later on. We'll see whether there were pits there or swamps. I don't know. But it says the woods devoured more people than the sword. Verse 9. And Absalom met the servants of David, and Absalom rode upon a mule, and the mule went under a thick bough of a great oak, and his head caught hold of the oak, and he was taken up between the heaven and the earth, and the mule that was under him went away. Remember, this guy had this really long flowing hair when look at chapter 14, verse 25. So 14:25. Absalom would cut his hair once a year, and it would weigh about 5 pounds when he would cut it.
Oh, that's right. You said that.
In 2 Samuel 14:25, it says, "But in all Israel there was none so much praised as Absalom for his beauty, from the sole of his foot even to the crown of his head. There was no blemish in him. And when he polled his head or cut his hair, for it was every year's end he polled it, because the hair was heavy on him. Therefore he polled it, and he weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels after the king's weight, about 5 pounds. So this guy must have had this long flowing hair, beautiful, beautiful guy. He goes through these woods and literally gets caught in a tree. The mule he's on rides out from under him, and he's hanging by his hair from a tree. Not a great place to be when you're in battle. Verse 10. And a certain man saw it and told Joab and said, Behold, I saw Absalom hanged in an oak. And Joab said unto the man that told him, And behold, thou sawest him, and why did thou not smite him there to the ground? And I would have given thee 10 shekels of silver and a girdle. And changes of clothes were considered wealth. Most people only had the clothes they wore. They didn't have a change of clothes. So to have something else to put on, or a girdle that might have been decorative, would have been a real honor, plus 10 shekels of silver. Verse 12, and the man said unto Joab, Though I should receive 1,000 shekels of silver in my hand, yet would I not put forth my hand against the king's son, for in our hearing the king's charge thee and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Beware that none touch the young man Absalom. So the king had given commandment, I don't want you to kill Absalom. I don't want you to hurt him. We'll see, but Joab isn't always good at taking orders from the king. We'll read on. Verse 15. Nope. Verse
13.
Yeah, 13. Otherwise, I would have wrought falsehood against mine own life, for there is no matter hid from the king, and thou thyself would have set thyself against me. If I had done this thing, the king would have found out, and you would have killed me, is what the guy's saying. Then said Joab, I may not tarry thus with thee. And he took 3 darts, or really spears, things that you would throw, darts or spears, with thee. Took 3 darts in his hand and thrust them through the heart of Absalom while he was yet alive in the midst of the oak. So this guy's still hanging by his hair from the oak. Joab comes upon him and basically does target practice at Absalom and kills him. And 10 young men that bare Joab's armor compassed about and smote Absalom and slew him. They made sure he was dead. And Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing after Israel, for Joab held back the people. He didn't want to keep killing Israel. That wasn't his goal here. His goal was to put down a rebellion so that King David's throne would be protected. Verse 17, they took Absalom and cast him into a great pit. So there were pits there in the woods, and laid a very heavy heap of stone upon him, and all Israel fled, everyone to his tent. So Israel is what they're referring to as Absalom's army. Absalom's dead. There's nobody to lead the army. They're taken off. There's no king to fight for anymore. So they all go running back to their tents. Verse 18. Now Absalom in his life had taken and reared up for himself a pillar which is in the king's dale, for he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. And he called the pillar after his own name, and it is called unto this day Absalom's place. Then said Ahimaaz, the son of Zodok, which was one of the priests, Let me now run and bear the king's tidings, now that the Lord had avenged him on his enemies. And Joab said unto him, Thou shalt not bear tidings this day, but thou shalt bear tidings another day. But this day thou shalt bear no tidings, because the king's son is dead. Don't run and tell him his son's dead just yet. Then said to Joab to Cushai, Go and tell the king what thou hast seen. And Cushai bowed himself unto Joab and ran. And Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, yet again to Joab, howsoever let me, I pray thee, also run after Cushai. And Joab says, Wherefore wilt thou run, my son, seeing thou hast no tidings ready? But whomsoever, said he, let me run. And he said unto him, Run, go ahead, you can go. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plains and overran Cushai. And David sat between the 2 gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gates of the wall and lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, the man running alone. And the watchman cried and told the king, and the king said, if he be alone, there be tidings in his mouth. And he came apace and drew near, and the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called unto the porter, and he said, behold, another man runneth alone. And the king said, he also bringeth tidings. And the watchman said, methinketh the running of the foremost is like the running of Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok. He recognized him. And the king said, he is a good man and cometh with good tidings. And Ahimaaz called and said unto the king, all is well. And he fell down to the earth upon his face before the king. And he said, blessed be the Lord God, which had delivered up the men that lifted up their hand against the Lord, my lord the king. And the king said, is the young man Absalom safe? And Ahimaaz answered, when Joab sent the king's servant and me and thy servant, I saw a great tumult, and I knew not what it was. So he's not telling them. And the king said unto him, turn aside and stand here. And he turned aside and stood. And behold, Cushai came, and Cushai said, tidings, my lord the king, for the Lord hath avenged thee this day of all them that rose up against thee. And the king said unto Cushai, is the young man Absalom safe? And Cushai answered, the enemies of my king, my lord the king, and all that rose against him to do thee hurt, be as that young man is. They're all dead, king, Absalom included. Every one of them's dead. And the king was much moved and went up to the chamber over the gate and wept. And he went thus, he said, oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would God I had died for thee, O Absalom, my son, my son. This is not a good thing. I understand that a father is always going to grieve for his child, but this goes against what David saying, I wish I had died and you had lived. That wasn't God's will. God's will was that David's kingdom was established and that Absalom didn't sit on the throne. And we're going to see that this becomes a problem. The people, he almost loses all the people over this because he's so mourning for his son. He's like, Joab will confront him over this. Look at chapter 19, verse 1. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we're good. 19:1. And it was told Joab, behold, the king weepeth and mourneth for Absalom. And the victory that day was turned into mourning unto all the people. For the people heard say that day how the king was grieved for his son. And the people got them by stealth that day into the city, as the people, being ashamed, steal away when they flee in battle. It's like they lost the battle. They'd done this great thing to make sure David's throne was established, and David was treating it like they had done him some wrong. And this really hurt their hearts. Verse 4, but king covered his face, and the king crieth with a loud voice, O my son Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son. And Joab came in unto the house of the king and said, thou hast shamed this day the faces of all thy servants. He's confronting him. And Joab, Joab's a no-nonsense kind of guy. He's like, what are you doing? You're shaming all the people who fought on your behalf, which this day had saved thy life and the lives of thy sons and thy daughters and the lives of thy wives and the lives of thy concubines. The battle we fought, every one of your kids would have been killed, because that's what new kings do. They make sure there were no heirs to the old throne. And they would have come in and killed them. They would have killed your wives. And we fought and stopped that from happening. Verse 6, in that thou lovest thy enemies and hatest thy friends. Look at how that's quite a statement to make to get the king's attention. Proverbs 27:6 says, faithful are the wounds of a friend. And sometimes when you hear that, what does that mean? Sometimes a real friend will hurt you by telling you the truth. And it may hurt you. But isn't it better to hear the truth from a friend than lies, right? Deceitful are the lies of the kisses of an enemy, it says the second part of that verse. But faithful are the wounds of a friend. Joab is not pulling any punches with David. This is terrible thing what you're doing. You love your enemies and you hate your friends. For thus hast declared this day that thou regardest neither prince nor servant. For this day I perceive that if Absalom had lived and all we had died this day, that it had pleased thee well. You'd be happy if he lived and we all died. That's not Christian, or that's not godly leadership here. And so Joab is confronting David. Now therefore arise and go forth and speak comfortably unto thy servants, for I swear by the Lord, if thou go not forth, there will not tarry one with thee this night, and that will be worse unto thee than all the evil that befell thee from thy youth until now. If you don't go and start talking and praising these guys for the good job they did, they'll all be gone by the time you wake up in the morning. There'll not be one person standing with you because of how you behaved when we won the battle for you. Then the king arose, verse 8, and sat in the gate, and they told all the people, saying, Behold, the king doth sit in the gate. And all the people came before the king, for Israel had fled, every man to his tent. So they're still referring to the people that were against David as Israel, and his men as David's servants. Verse 9, and all the people were at strife throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, The king saved us out of the hand of our enemies, and he delivered us out of the hand of the Philistines, and now he has fled out of the land for Absalom. And Absalom, whom we anointed over us, is dead in battle. Now, therefore, why speak ye not a word of bringing the king back? Remember, this is still, Israel is in turmoil. They don't even know who the king is. Well, David was king, but Absalom chased him off. Then Absalom died in battle against David's forces, and David's mourning for Absalom. Who the hell's the king? So they're trying to figure that out. Verse 11, and King David sent to Zadok and to Abiathar, the priest, saying, Speak unto the elders of Judah, saying, Why are ye the last to bring the king back to his house, seeing the speech of all Israel has come to the king, even to his house? Hey, Judah, you're my people. You're the ones I ruled over first. Why are you not here with me to lead me back to Jerusalem to set me back on the throne? Get your butt over here, is what he's really saying. And say ye to Amasa, art thou not of my bones and of my flesh? God do so to me and more. Also, if thou be not captain of the host before me continually in the room of Joab. David's not happy with Joab. Joab killed Absalom. So he's not happy. So he puts his, this is a relative of his, Amasa, you're going to be captain of the host. He doesn't even take Ittai or Abishai, who's Joab's brother. He demotes Joab and puts this guy Amasa as captain of the host. And he bowed the heart of all the men of Judah and as the heart of one man, so that they sent this word unto the king, Return thou and all thy servants. So the king returned and came to Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal to meet the king, to conduct the king over Jordan. And Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamite, which came of Baram, hasted and came down unto the men of Judah to meet King David. This is the guy who was cursing him when he was leaving, Shimei. We'll see that as we read on. He's coming out like, oh boy, yeah, let me come with you. Oh, welcome back, King. He was cursing him as he was leaving. Now he's like, oh, let's see. I bet on the wrong horse, so I better change sides. Verse 17. There were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and his 20 servants with him. And they went over Jordan before the king, and there went over a ferry boat to carry over the king's household and to do what he thought good. And Shimei, the son of Gera, fell down before the king as he was come over Jordan, and said unto the king, Let not my lord impute iniquity unto me, neither do thou remember that which thy servant did perversely the day that my lord the king went out of Jerusalem, that the king should take it to his heart. Hey, yeah, I was kind of only kidding. Not so much. For thy servant doth know that I have sinned. Therefore, behold, I am come the first this day unto all the house of Joseph to go down to meet my lord the king. And Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, this is Joab's brother, right? One of his captains, shall not Shimei be put to death for this, because he had cursed the Lord's anointed? And David said, What have I to do with you, ye sons of Zeruiah, that ye should this day be adversaries unto me? Therefore shall there any man be put to death this day in Israel? For do not I know that I am this day king over Israel? His words don't mean anything to me. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to put him to death. This is a day of rejoicing. I'm brought back to the throne. I'm not going to put him to death. Verse 23. Therefore the king said unto Shimei, Thou shalt not die. And the king sware unto him. And Mephibosheth, this was Jonathan's son. Remember, he was lame in his feet. He went to Jerusalem too to be in Absalom's court. And Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, really the son of Jonathan, came down to meet the king, and had neither dressed his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his clothes, from the day the king departed until the day he came again in peace. And it came to pass, when he was come to Jerusalem to meet the king, that the king said unto him, Wherefore wentest thou not with me, Mephibosheth? Hey, didn't I invite you to eat at my court, and you didn't come with me when I left? So he's gonna give him a reason. Verse 26, and he answered, My lord, O king, my servant deceived me For thy servant said, I will saddle me an ass that I may ride thereon and go to the king, because thy servant is lame. Verse 27, and he hath slandered thy servant unto my lord the king, but my lord the king is an angel of God, and do therefore what is good in thine eyes. Look, I really wanted to go with you, but my servant tricked me and said he was going to saddle an ass, and he didn't, so I couldn't go. But really, what he did was he saddled his ass and he went into Jerusalem to try to be a part of Absalom's court. But again, the king's in a very forgiving mood right now. He's not looking to take care of anybody, kill anybody. Verse 28, for all thy father's house were but dead men before my lord the king, yet did thou set thy servant among them, and did eat at thine own table. What right therefore have I yet to cry any more unto the king? Look, you've been very good to me. I'm just going to shut up. I don't have any right to ask you for anything else. And if you want to kill me, that's up to you. And the king said unto him, why speakest thou any more of thy matters? I have said, thou and Ziba divide the land. So he'd given the land to Ziba when Mephibosheth went in. And now he's saying, okay, you guys are going to split it. Because Ziba was his servant. Mephibosheth was Jonathan's son. He goes, you guys can split up the land, but you'll each get a piece. Verse 30, Mephibosheth said unto the king, yea, let him take all, for as much as the Lord thy king is come again in peace unto his own house. He can have the whole thing. I'm just happy you're back. Whether that was genuine or not, I don't know. He didn't give me the feeling earlier on that he really cared that much for the king. And Barzillai, the Gileadite, came down from Rogelim and went over the Jordan with the king to conduct him over the Jordan. Now, Barzillai was very aged man, even 80 years old. So he's 80 years old. And he had provided the king sustenance while he lay in Mahanaim, for he was a very great man. So he was a very wealthy man. He brought food and sustenance to the king while he was on the run from Absalom. Verse 35, I am this day 80 years old. Oh no, verse 34. And Barzillai said unto the king, how long have I to live that I should go up with the king unto Jerusalem? Sorry, I missed 33. And the king said unto Barzillai, come thou over with me, and I will feed thee with me in Jerusalem. I want to honor you. Come, and you'll eat at my table. And he said, verse 34, and Barzillai said unto the king, how long have I to live that I should go up with the king unto Jerusalem? I am this day 80 years old, and I can can I discern between good and evil? And can thy servant taste what I eat or what I drink? My taste buds don't even work that good anymore. It's really not that big a deal, king, but thank you. Can I hear any more the voice of singing men and singing women? Wherefore then should thy servant yet be a burden unto my lord the king? Thy servant will go a little way over the Jordan with the king. Why should the king recompense it with me such a reward? Look, I did what I did. I'm happy to do it. You don't owe me anything. Let thy servant, I pray thee, turn back again, that I may die in my own city and be buried by the grave of my fathers and of my mother. But behold, thy servant, Chimham, let him go over with my lord the king, and do to him what seemeth good unto thee. So this is one of my people. He'll go with you. You can bless him instead of me. And so the king answered, Chimham shall go over with me, and I will do to him that which shall seem good unto thee, and whatsoever thou shalt requite of me, that will I do for thee. And all the people went over Jordan, and when the king was come over, the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned unto his own place. And the king went on to Gilgal with Chimham, went on with him, and all the people of Judah conducted the king. Also half the people of Israel. So Judah and part of Israel are coming along to bring him back, to set him back on the throne, to make sure everybody knows David is king in Israel. Verse 41, and behold, all the men of Israel came to the king and said unto the king, why have our brethren, the men of Judah, stolen thee away, and have brought the king and his household and all David's men with him over Jordan? Yeah, how come we were left out of this? Well, you were fighting with Absalom, if you remember. Now they seem to have a short memory. And the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, because the king is near kin to us, right? He was from Judah, right? The king is near kin to us. Therefore, then be angry for this matter. Have we eaten at all the king's cost, or given us any gifts? We're not doing this because we're getting fed or getting gifts. And the men of Israel answered the men of Judah and said, we have 10 parts in the king, and we have also more right in David than ye. Because remember, there were 10 tribes in Israel, there were 2 tribes in Judah. And David, why then did ye despise us that our advice should not be first, that had bring him back our king? And the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. So, hey, shut up. We're doing what we're doing. You can come along or not, but we're still doing it. So we get to chapter 20. How are we doing? Let me take a quick look. Again, the kingdom is still not yet fully settled. And here we go in chapter 20. Verse 1, and there happened to be there a man of Belial. And we've known this phrase. We've looked at it on our Bible studies, a man of Belial or a child of Belial. Belial was another name for the devil in the Old Testament. And a child or a man of Belial was a child of the devil. This was someone we talked about where Jesus Christ said, you are of your father, the devil, to the Pharisees. That's this phrase, you are of your father, the devil. It's one of the worst things you could call somebody in Israel. And there was a man of Belial whose name was Sheba, the son of Bichri, a Benjamite, and he blew a trumpet and said, we have no part in David, neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse, every man to his tent, O Israel. So he's going to rise up now and try to take Israel away from David. Verse 2, and so every man of Israel went up from after David and followed Sheba, the son of Bichri, and the men of Judah clave unto their king from Jordan, even Jerusalem. David still has very faithful men with him, but there's still a split in Israel that's going to have to be put down for David to rule over. Remember, God said the sword's never going to depart from your house. You're going to be fighting for the rest of your life because of the sin that he did, killing Uriah, having Uriah murdered, and taking Bathsheba in adultery. So there's still consequences happening from that sin. Verse 3, and David came to his house at Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women, his concubines, who he had left to keep the house, and put them in the ward, and fed them, but he went not in unto them, so they were shut up unto the days of their death, living in widowhood. So he couldn't go back in unto them, because if they had a child, someone could say, well, that's Absalom's child, because he laid with them. So he basically he gave them a good life, but he would no longer be with them because there was to be a concern of whose child it might have been, which was a big deal if you were king. Verse 4, then said the king to Amasa, this is the new captain of the host, remember? Assemble me the men of Judah with 3 days, and be thou here present. So Amasa went to assemble the men of Judah, but he tarried longer than the set time which he had been appointed to him. So he doesn't come back in 3 days. And David said to Abishai, this is Joab's brother, now shall Sheba the son of Bichri do us more harm than did Absalom. Take thou thy Lord's servant and pursue after him, and lest he get him fenced cities and escape us. There he went out after him, Joab's men, and the Chetherites and the Pelethites, which was David's bodyguard. So basically takes David's bodyguards, the men that Joab was over, and Abishai is going to go pursue after this guy, Sheba. Went out of Jerusalem to pursue after Sheba, the son of Bichri. And they were at the great stone, which is in Gibeon. Amasa went before them. And Joab's garment that he had put on was girded with him, and upon it a girdle with a sword fastened upon his loins in the sheath thereof, and as he went forth, it fell out. So he's wearing the girdle that Joab had worn as captain of the host. Must not fit real well because he's got this sheath for his sword, and the sword comes out of it while he's wearing this girdle. Verse 9, and Joab said to Amasa, art thou in health, my brother? And Joab took Amasa by the beard with the right hand to kiss him, but Amasa took no heed of the sword that was in Joab's hand, and he smote him there in the 5th rib, and shed out his bowels to the ground, and struck him not again, and he died. So Joab and Abishai his brother pursued after Sheba the son of Bichri. So Joab just killed the new captain of the host. Joab is not necessarily doing what David wants him to do, but hey, I want my job back apparently. So Joab and Abishai pursue. Sheba, the son of Bichri. And one of Joab's men stood by him, and he said, He that favoreth Joab, and he that is for David, let him go after Joab. And Amasa wallowed in blood in the midst of the highway. And when the men saw that all the people stood still, he removed Amasa out of the highway into the field and cast a cloth upon him when he saw that every man that came by him stood still. So the army's like, what the hell's going on? Isn't he the guy the king just appointed? Now the old captain of host just killed the new captain of host. So they cover him up so that it doesn't shock the troops coming by. And then in verse 13, and he was removed out of the highway, and all the people went on after Joab to pursue after Sheba, the son of Bichri. And when they and he went through all the tribes of Israel unto Abel and unto Beth Makkah and all the Berites that were gathered together and went also after him. And they came and besieged him in Abel of Beth Makkah, and they cast up a bank against the city, and it stood in a trench, and all the people that were Joab battered the walls to throw it down. Then cried a wise woman out of the city, Hear, hear, say I pray you unto Joab, come near hither, that I may speak with thee. And when he was come near unto her, the woman said, Art thou Joab? And he answered, I am he. Then said she unto him, Hear the words of thy handmaid. And he answered, I do hear. And she spake, saying, There were wont to speak in old times, saying, They shall surely ask counsel at Abel. And so they ended the matter. So they would come to this woman for counsel. She was considered very wise, is what they're basically saying. Then she spake, verse 19, and I am one of them that are peaceable and faithful in Israel. Hey, I'm not against the king. Thou seekest to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why wilt thou swallow up the inheritance of the Lord? And Job answered and said, Far be it from me that I should swallow up or destroy. The matter is not so, but a man of Mount Ephraim, Sheba, the son of Bichri, by name, hath lifted up his hand against the king, even against David. Deliver him only, and I will depart from the city. And the woman said unto Joab, Behold, his head shall be thrown to thee over the wall. Give me a minute. I'm going to go get his head. And the woman went unto all the people in her wisdom, and they cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and cast it out to Joab, and he blew a trumpet. And they returned from the city, every man to his tent, and Joab returned to Jerusalem unto the king. Now Joab was over all the host of Israel, so he gets his job back, basically. And Benaiah, the son of Jediah, was over the Charites and the Pelatites, the king's guard. And the doorman was over the tribute, and Jehoshaphat, the son of Elihud, was the recorder, and Sheba was the scribe, and Zadok and Bithar were the priests. And Ira, also, the Jarite, was chief ruler about David. Chief ruler is a bad translation. He was like David's personal priest. He was like a chaplain almost. He was the one who was with David all the time. So we see this, just the prophecy that God had made early on. Hey, the sword's not going to depart from thee, follows David, and that I'm going to rise up evil from your own house. Absalom, right, rose up, tried to take over the king, was killed by Joab, rightfully so. You can't try to overthrow the king and not have consequences, because he would have just tried to do it again. Maybe caught David at a weak moment and killed him. So Joab did the right thing here. Then this guy Sheba rises up. Even after David's being a good guy, I'm not going to kill Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, because he turned against me. I'm not going to kill the guy who was cursing me out, Zimri, who was cursing me out as I was leaving, not going to throwing rocks at me. He didn't kill either of those guys. He didn't go out after revenge. I think I mentioned before, there's a really good book if you want to read, take some lessons from David's life, The Tale of Three Kings, about Saul chasing David, about Absalom chasing David, and how David behaved himself righteously towards these men that were not behaving themselves righteously towards him, and how that can sometimes help us when we get into situations where it's like, well, this guy's been mean to me, so I'm gonna be mean back to him. David didn't, David believed that God would avenge him of his enemies, that it's a righteous thing for God to repay tribulation to those that trouble you. That's what the Bible tells us. It's not a righteous thing for me to repay tribulation to those who trouble me, but it is a righteous thing for God. So Then this guy Sheba rises up. Joab goes after him. Abishai goes after him. Amasa, who's the new short-lived captain of the host, goes after him. Joab kills Amasa, and then the woman cuts off Sheba's head, throws it over the wall, and Joab brings it back to Jerusalem. And that's so things are now settled that David has no more competitors for the throne at this moment. And we'll see how things go from here. But there's issues, there's lessons of life that we can learn from this. That some people say, well, if it's all grace, can't I just sin? I mean, you can, but there are consequences. The guy who ends up in jail and says, well, why am I still in jail? God forgave me. Well, because the state didn't forgive you. And maybe you'll get out early. I mean, that happens sometimes too. But there are consequences. When we sin, we leave the door open for the adversary to attack us. So and I'm not saying we don't ever sin, we do, but like David, we immediately repent and, ask God for forgiveness. And maybe there will be minimal to no consequences, but we can't keep living a life of sin and expect that there'll be no consequences. There will be. So, it's not that we don't do good works or we don't live a holy life so that we can make it to heaven. That's already been assured us that when you accepted Jesus Christ, when the Bible says, if you believe in your heart that God raised from the dead and you confess Jesus as Lord, Romans 10:9 says you're saved. I mean, you're saved from the wrath to come. You're saved from God's wrath. You've 1 Corinthians 3 says that you shall be saved, yet so is by fire. But the things we do, the works we do, that will determine the rewards we get. What does God give you for rewards for all eternity? This life is not about this life. This life is about all eternity. How we live in this life will impact us for all eternity. That's quite a good deal when you think about it. If I just live for God in this life, God will bless us for all eternity because of that. That's a pretty good deal, I think, So, questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, let me. Yep, go ahead.
Pretty tough the way that they settle their disagreements.
You're right.
Bloodshed.
You're right. In Israel,
it makes our recent shutdown look pretty peaceful.
There's you're right. You're right. They had physical enemies in Israel. They had spiritual enemies too, but they didn't have the knowledge that you and I have. So when Ephesians tells us we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness in high places, we still wrestle, we still fight, we still contend, but not like Israel did. We don't have to go and kill our enemy physically. We stand for God, and that's literally all he asks us to do, stand. Because think about it, if you're the light of the world and you stand and that light shines, that does the work. It drives off the darkness. You stand for God. That's what he asks you to do, and let that light shine. You don't have to, we're not in a physical battle, generally speaking. I mean, there are times, I guess, we have Christians being beheaded in Africa and Nigeria right now. And unfortunately, fortunately, they will get up when Christ returns and they will be rewarded. I don't think it's a good thing that that's happening by any means, but those are our brothers and sisters. So we pray for them. And I think, I don't have any problem if our government wants to get involved and stop that, because I don't like the idea of my brothers and sisters being massacred. But it does say that some of that will happen. And unfortunately, that it is happening, and it did happen, but those that died for Christ will get up and be rewarded for Christ. And when Christ raises them from the dead, they'll get up to eternal life, and they'll have eternal rewards as well. So good stuff. Oh yeah, did I tell you guys? I'm gonna hold on. Let me stop the